Hello friends, welcome to Biju Guys Teaching Cafe. This is a short video lecture on the theme Politics a Power View. So friends, we have looked at definitions of politics at various angles in the previous video lectures. These lectures have made us to reconsider whether politics is an activity related to the state, or is it an activity related to public affairs, or an activity related to institutions, or there was a question whether we can extend politics beyond the state, institutions and so on. So whether the aim of politics is conflict resolution or consensus building. So a lot of questions comes to our mind after coming to the previous video lectures about what is politics. So this lecture is just a continuation of the previous video lectures. Some people define politics quite simply as the exercise of power. It is simply as the exercise of power. Some people say it is a study of the influence and the influential. It is about shaping and sharing of power. Some people view it as something related to how people exercise power in society. So an American political scientist, Robert et al. Defined power as influence over the actions of others. He argued that A has power over B to the extent that he can get B to do something that B would not otherwise do. A has power over B to the extent that he can get B to do something that B would not otherwise do. This is a definition given by Robert et al. That means the concept of power, according to Robert et al., is something related to how you influence the behavior of other people. So he proposed this idea in an article published in 1957 titled The Concept of Power. So still there are other definitions given by Harold Laswell. He defined politics as about who gets what, when and how. It's one of the most accepted definitions of politics in this study area. So Laswell has a distinct idea about politics, in which he has given an economic dimensions to politics, because he thought about politics as an activity that is related to shaping and sharing of resources in the society. How economic resources are being distributed among people in a way in which everybody feel comfortable, and he inquires whether resources are adequately distributed among all the people in a way that all are happy, or is it distributed in a way people feel uncomfortable. So others like Stephen Lukes, a British political scientist, a social theorist, has defined that power is something related to how you look at things from an ideological point of view, how agendas are being set, how preferences are shaped more broadly. That said, he has gone beyond the traditional ideas of power, traditional ideas of physical power, that A has power over B, one given by Robert et al. So let us go into the details of these definitions of power, and thereby we can understand what exactly is the subject matter of political science. So friends, Robert et al. Has a very interesting idea. He says politics is power. It is influence over the actions of others. It is the influence of actions of over the actions of others. It is a definition given by Robert et al. A very interesting definition. That is, it is the influence over the actions of others. In his best book, Who Governs? Democracy and Power in an American City, published in 1961, he defined power in the sense that power is a relation between two people or two parties. To specify it further, he believed that it is a relation among people. So friends, there are serious debate in, let us understand this definition in a detailed manner, that it is a relation among people, that it is something related to A has power over B to the extent that A can get B to do things which A wants B to do. So there are serious debate in philosophy circle about the relationship between ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle and his famous student, a conqueror student, Alexander. Again, so he was a Macedonian emperor. So despite being a student of a famous teacher, that is Aristotle, Alexander was not interested at all in philosophy or morals or aesthetics or art. He was bothered about power, how to conquer the world, how to influence the behavior of others. So Alexander took the throne in 336 BC, and in 334 BC Alexander invaded Persia, which those days laid across the Aegean Sea in the Asia Minor, the modern day Turkey. So after 3 grueling years of warfare and 3 decisive battles, Alexander was able to smash the Persian armies at the Tigris river, and he conquered the mighty Persian Empire, including the legendary city of Babylon. So for many Greek people, this victory marked a moment of sweet revenge against a bitter foe, a bitter enemy. Those days there was a conflict between the Persians and the Greeks. So at this point he was just 25 years old. So Alexander ruled an expansive empire. Nevertheless, his ambitions were not confined only to Persia. While fighting Persians, Alexander also conquered the Egyptians and founded a city at the mouth of the Nile River. I think you might remember the name of that city. It is Alexandria. So it became a cosmopolitan city, diverse, bustling centers of trade, art, ideas. So friends, Alexander was not done with it. He was not satisfied again. So he continued his campaign, driving farther east beyond the Persian Empire, and he reached India at the Indus River. And at Jhelum, in 326 BC, he defeated Porus, an Indian king, a small king. But at this point, his troops were exhausted and refused to fight further. And they told that Alexander that they are exhausted and we should stop this. And Alexander, who was a great leader, he was able to understand his troops, and he finished and he stopped fighting. So without support of the army, Alexander was well aware that he cannot move further and he cannot consolidate all the empire he has built. So he went back, and Alexander died of a disease in 323 BC, right? So later Seleucus Nicator has come to India, but unfortunately, unlike those people Alexander met in India, by the time Seleucus Nicator came to India, the problem was that India was ruled by a very powerful king. I hope you remember, he was Chandragupta Maurya. He was a great emperor builder in India those days, and he had a very powerful army, greater than the army of Seleucus Nicator those days. So look at another instances. The British Empire covered more than 22% of the Earth's landmass. The empire had 458 million people in 1938. So more than 20% of the world's population lived under British Empire. That was the largest empire man ever built. That covered almost 20% of the people and 22% of the landmass of the world. Look at the Mongol Empire founded by Genghis Khan. So he had 17.8% of the world under his empire. The empire had 110 million people between 1270 to 1309. So more than 25% of the world's population belonged to his empire those days. So the Russian Empire, one of the other biggest empire, it had 9.5 million square miles of land. More than 15% of the earth landmass belonged to the Russian Empire. The empire had 176.4 million people in 1913. That was, 9% of the landmass under its control. 9% of the world's population under its control. So Spanish Empire, another big empire, that covered 7.72 million square miles of land, and more than 13% of Earth's landmass belonged to that empire, Spanish Empire. The empire had 68.2 million people between 1740 and 1790. So about 12% of the world's population belonged to this empire. So Spain began as an empire by the time of Columbus started voyage to find other territories. So Spanish Empire was the second, one of the biggest empires in the world. So the Qing dynasty in China, another example of biggest empires. The Yuan dynasty, the Yuan dynasty was another biggest empire. The Yuan dynasty was also founded by Genghis Khan's grandson. So, what is the meaning of all these empire building enterprises in human history? Friends, what is the story behind Alexander and his conquest? Why the Spanish Empire, the Yuan, the king, the region? What the message of these stories? Friends, history of mankind is history of control or struggle for power. Three important things shaped human history. All the problems that we have faced in human history was basically because of the control over three things. One is power, most important thing. Second is wealth, and third is women. Most battles, most struggles, most confrontations, most conflicts has arisen out of the control over these three things. So, but power is not confined only to conquest of statesmen. See, power is important. Power is important, and people want to dominate over others. It is more about how much wealth you possess, how much property you have, how much men you have under your control, how much influence you have over other people. So power is always an important element in human history, in human life, in man's relationship between other people, man's social world. So power is most important thing. That how you influence other people, how you get people under your control, how much wealth you have. So power is a very important thing, in human history. Throughout human history, you can find that people always fought for power. Man's history has been shaped by his interest for getting power. So this is one dimension of power being said by Robert Edel, that A has power over B. But Harold Laswell has a different idea about power. Harold Laswell, he was an American influential political theorist, social theorist. He had done some seminal works on power, how power influences society, how power shape political behavior, and he studied power relationship of personalities and power relationship in politics, and he used behavioral studies in understanding political behavior, and he authored more than 30 books, 250 articles on a diverse areas, from international relations, psychoanalysis, legal education, so on and so forth. So Laswell viewed politics as the study of change in the distribution of value patterns in society. Change in the distribution of value patterns in the society, and because of distribution depends on power, because the distribution of resources, values depends on power, the focal point of his analysis remained always power. So how you distribute values means resources. How you distribute values in society, that is always resting upon how you hold power. So his analysis was more on how power is being shaped, how power is being distributed in society. So Laswell had a very interesting ideas about power. So he defined values as the desired goals in society. Every people has this goal that they want to get values, and power at the same time is the ability to participate in decision making. Power is the ability to participate in decision making, and he conceived power as the ability to produce intended effects on other people, that you wanted to bring certain kinds of behavior in other people. So it is your ability to produce intended effects in the behavior of other people. Okay, so in politics, and a very interesting book and also interesting title. So in politics, who gets what, when, how, published in 1936. It's a work, a seminal work, which provides a standard definition of politics. That he viewed that power is an elite affair, but he later changed that idea in another book, that is Power and Society, a framework for political inquiry, published in 1950. He has written this book along with Abraham Kaplan. So he widened the discussion and broadened the discussion, which included a framework for analyzing political inquiry, which included categories such as people's psychology, personality, group behavior, culture, how culture, group, personality, and personhood of the people influence their political behavior. So he had gone somewhere beyond what Robert et al. Said about power, that A has control over B. So Harold Laswell defined politics as who gets what, when, and how. So that means how resources are being distributed, how it is being distributed, and who gets what kind of resources, and from whom, from where people get resources. These were the ideas he inquired with this proposition. And for him, politics encapsulated political behavior in a way that people wanted to hold resources, and those who hold resources have power in society. Those who have resources have say over the society. So struggle for resources is important according to Harold Laswell. So Professor Gittens from Princeton University, in an interesting work, Affluence and Influence, Economic Inequality and Political Power in America, he makes this point very clear that vested interest permeate in politics, in US society, in US political system, and citizen has become insignificant in politics, in US politics, because everybody wanted to hold power, everybody wanted to hold resources. That's why people began to view that politics is a dirty game, because it is not a good thing, it's not a moral thing, it's not good, it's not a field where good people enter. So friends, you study, for example, you are a very good student, you study well, you have done all the assignments well, all the time papers well, and you got good grade in the university examination. But you know that not everybody's life is shaped by your merit, your quality. In some way it's good, but in society, when you go into society with your hard work, your effort, your quality, your merit, in society, everything is not done according to merit. There are conspiracies, there are some kinds of backdoor dealings, there are horse trading in society. So relationship, that's very important. So people view that power is everywhere, because it doesn't matter if you work very hard, if you are hardworking, if you have merit, if you have quality, it doesn't matter. There is something more to achievement in life. So people hate politics, right? Because behind politics there is power game. So it's about resources, how resources are being distributed in a way that only people with the power benefit in society. That's what Harold Laswell said. Then comes another interesting dimension of power by Stephen Lukes. Stephen Lukes was an academic theorist. He proposed a very interesting theory about power, that three phases of power in his book, Power, a Radical View. That was his book, Power, a Radical View. So his theory claimed that power is exercised in three ways. That is, one is decision making power, second is non-decision making power, and third is ideological power. Let us explain it in detail. First, decision making power. Friends, power is the most public, decision making is the most public phase of power. That is, decision making is the most public phase of power. So this means, how you take decisions, who involved in decision making. So you request for roads, infrastructure, communication, healthcare, good education, and you bargain with the political actors. You request for more employment opportunities. You request for quality education, and you engage and you bargain with the political actors, and political actors take decision that satisfies everybody. This is a simple form of power. It's a kind of engagement between those who have power and over whom this power are exercised. So you don't have power, but you have demands, and political actors act according to your wishes. So it's a kind of negotiation, that is decision making. It's a simple form of power, right? Stephen Lukes proposed a second interesting form of power, that is not decision making. Friends, making power means setting agenda in debates, in policy documents, in decision making. Somebody take decision, but who compel them to take that decision? That is, non-decision making is also an interesting dimension of power. For example, in China, internet is banned. In China, there is no Google, no Facebook, no Twitter, but Chinese version is available, but with a censored version. So these are not available in China. People cannot get ideas like, what is the meaning of word democracy, freedom, rights, equality, justice. These liberal ideas are not available in China. When people search on Chinese internet, they won't get the meaning of these words. Why? Because there is censorship in China. So school children in China always say that Mao is great, China is great. First class they say Mao is great, China is great. Second class also Mao is great, China is great. So fifth to sixth standard they speak the same thing till after the school, till they die they always say Mao is great, China is great, because they are not able to think. So the system create a society in that way. People are in a position not to take decisions, because decisions are already being taken by those who are in power. So in North Korea, for example, there is no religion, there is no God, and people have only one leader, and they have only one religion, that is state religion. So people, there don't know about diversity, plurality of faith, plurality of gods. It's the North Korean system is created that people are comfortable with what they have, because they don't know anything about diversity, right? So you have a WhatsApp group, for example. For the teacher asks you whether you need online class next day, and some students want classes, but they are not able to openly acknowledge the fact that they want class in your WhatsApp group. Why? Because there are some bullies in the WhatsApp group. They will attack you. They will bully you for asking class in the WhatsApp group. So you have some inherent desire to attend online classes tomorrow, but some bullies in the group. You are afraid of the bullies because they will use some words against you in the group or somewhere else, and they will belittle you for saying this, and they will mock you. So for you are not in a position to say that you want a class. That's non-decision making. It's a kind of power. And here, Stephen Luke proposed another dimension of power. This ideological power. It's the most complicated form of power, so also very difficult to understand. That is, ideological power is one in which allows one to influence the ideas, the thoughts, the thinking of other people. Even if you don't want to think that way, don't want to get that thing, somebody can make you think that way, somebody can make you buy that way, or somebody can make you get that thing even if you don't that thing. Clear? So that is, you become an instrument in the hand of other people. For example, women in a patriarchal system, they don't have liberty, they don't have freedom, but they are comfortable with it. Why? Because they are made to think that way, that the family is a good system, the society is good, they have everything because they have husband, so they will take care of them. So they are not aware of independence, freedom, liberty, so on and so forth. So Luke offers this third dimension as a thorough critique of the behavioral focus of the first two definitions of Robert Edal and Harold Laswell. So Luke says that power is something beyond the behavioral aspect of A control B, behavior of B. So it's a very complicated. For example, you just imagine that are you able to talk openly about what is sex? Are you able to openly talk about what is pornography? No, because in our society these words are taboo words. It's an infamy. You're not supposed to talk openly. But this is a part of everybody's life in a long span of life, but we never openly acknowledge that it is there in their life. Why? Because it's a kind of ideological power, because somebody wanted to impose certain restrictions on your behavior and make you never behave in a particular way. Right? So that's ideological control over your behavior. So friends, these are three important dimensions of power. So politics is a study of power. It is study of power. It is study of people's behavior, how people are influenced, how how people are being controlled. Right? So I hope I was somehow able to create some confusion in your mind, and that is what I wanted after all by this lecture. If you have any questions or doubts, please drop a line to my YouTube channel. Thank you.